Once more, we're out recording with our oral history microphone, and on this beautiful day, we're visiting the home of Eura May Thompson Turner, and that's RFD 9, Benton, Kentucky, and as Shelby McCallum might say, in the heart of downtown Draffinville. So it's a real pleasure to be with you today, Miss Turner, and thank you for letting me come.
Well, it's a great pleasure to me to have the opportunity to talk with you and discuss some of the things that has happened in our lives as we went along down the road.
I take it that you're a Marshall County.
Yes, sir, I sure am.
And you were born when?
December the 16th, 1916.
And your father was?
Cletus Wilson Thompson.
And your mother? What?
Ida Mae Henson.
So you had a Henson and you had a Thompson.
Yes, sir.
And what part of the county were you born in?
Was born right in the east, up here around Fairdealing.
Near Fairdealing.
Near Fairdealing, Kentucky, yeah.
Very
Marshall
good. You're
County.
not a terribly long ways from where you were born.
No, I'm not.
All right, and that your dad, I presume, was a farmer.
Well, he was a farmer and a woodcutter, and we just did whatever we could to make a living, survive. Yeah. There were 9 of us children, and we all had to work when we got big enough. And Mother worked hard in the field, and just what Dad done, she did too.
Well, now, what you've described is sort of a description of nearly everybody in the county at that time.
Yes, sir. Everybody's about in the same boat. That's right.
If there were more mouths to feed, then there were more hands to work, and everybody did work.
Well, that's right. That's right.
Do you happen to remember any of your grandparents?
I remember one grandparent on my mother's side. She was Sally Mathis. She was a Sweeney before she married Uncle Sandy Mathis. But my great-grandfather died before I was born. But I did remember Aunt Sally, and we called her Grandma Mathis. She was a lovely old lady. She just went around through the neighborhood staying with women that were going to have babies, and she taken care of that. She was a part Indian, and she stayed with them and helped them out during their time of need, and we just loved her to death.
Kind of developed a specialty along that line.
Yeah, that's right. She sure did. Everybody loved her.
There wasn't a hospital in Marshall County then, of course.
No, sir. No, sir.
So she was most welcome.
That's true.
Yeah, well, fine.
Yeah.
Now, you say there were 9 of those. I don't know whether to ask you if you could name all 9 of them or not. But
9 of my brothers and sisters? Yes, sir. I can name them all. There's Vera Pearl Thompson. I'm the second child, Eura May Thompson. Then Earlene Thompson, John Thomas Thompson, Murray Jewel Thompson, Robert Earl Thompson, Charles Edward Thompson, Nola Lorraine Thompson, and Valencia Irene Thompson.
No, I'm going to give you a little button or a medal or something. For your memory is still very good.
Well, I can remember some things I'd like to that I can't, But
and some things you just soon forget.
Yes, that's true.
We're talking about the good old days now. Were they good to you?
Well, I guess they were, because, we didn't know any better back then. We just done with what we had and thought it was great, We enjoyed life. We had fun, and...
You enjoyed the other members of the family.
Yes,
you enjoyed your parents.
That's right.
And the neighbors.
The neighbors were great. When somebody needed something, the neighbors were there, They always chipped in and helped. I remember one winter we had the flu in our house, and people cut wood and brought in and come and help bring food and stuff, because Daddy was sick and we all were with the flu. But, you can live without a lot of things, but you can't live without neighbors and friends.
Oh, that would be the hardest job of all, and the thing you would least like to give up.
That's right.
But of course, life has improved in many ways because of inventions that have been made, and what do you think is the greatest thing that's happened? Just ordinary, down to earth
Oh,
kinds of things.
well, I guess maybe the automobile to me.
Yeah.
And electric appliances.
Oh,
and
that electric would come pretty high, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
I remember
And
one thing I always had to do was to help split stove wood, help my dad cut wood, and then of course every night there was just one in my family. I had a sister, but she died young, and Dad said, "Now you keep that stove wood box full."
yes, that's true. But the brothers mostly did that, you know. They do that.
The boys
they
had to bring in the wood and the heavy stuff.
But we did. All the girls worked at just about everything else in the fields and the tobacco patches and
I started
gardens.
to say you worked just like the boys when it came to old worming tobacco,
That's true.
chopping out corn.
We have went down the rows where they'd cut tobacco and hanging on the sticks, me and my sister, Earlene that I mentioned. We'd hang it on the sticks and pile it and then hand it from those piles up on the wagon to Daddy and the men that were cutting tobacco. We did just about everything that boys would do, you know, because we were the oldest. And we had to.
And as you were older, you probably had to help tend to the other children.
That's true. That's true. I dropped out of school whenever I was, I guess 14 or 15 to help take care of the younger children that came along, the last three. And Mother always worked out, and we had to do that. Stay at the house with the children. And
you mentioned school. You tell us a little bit about that. Where was this?
well, we lived up in, as I said before, the fair dealing community when I was a child. And I went to Old Davis Chapel School. And it was just great. We just loved it. It was just a one-room school. And we had about, 20 or 25 children going. They taught from the first grade to the 8th. And we had this big old pot-bellied stove sitting right in the middle of the schoolhouse, and all in wintertime we'd just gather around it, you know, and stay warm, but we really loved it. We loved our teachers. And we had Edith Downing for a school teacher, and then we had Pansy Henderson for a school teacher and at Davis Chapel, and that's about all that I remember there. And I had forgot when I was talking to you yesterday, or day before, but I went 2 years to Salem Chapel after they put two schools together, Davis Chapel and Old Salem. They put them together up there on 408. And
were they fairly close together?
Yes, they were fairly close together, just in different neighborhoods, you know. Mine was...
there was a school about every 2 or 3 miles.
Yes, they were, because you couldn't walk too far, you know, to school. We walked 2 or 3 miles. But then they put them together up on 408 and made Salem Chapel. So I went there 2 years. We had David Inman for a school teacher and John Gold Henson.
I've heard of both of those.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember David Inman real well.
Yeah, he was a great man. He was a great man, and we
finished
loved
at
him.
Hardin High School, I remember, and he and his son, if I remember correctly, didn't they start the first Dairy Queen in Benton? Or?
Well, you know, I don't remember about
well,
that. I don't really remember.
Sort of forgotten myself, but I believe he was in the Dairy Queen.
Well, he might have been. Well, he would have made a good one, all right. He would have made a good one.
All right, now you went to school there, and then you talked about dropping out a little bit early. Tell us some more about your meeting your husband. You did get married.
Real young, real young. We used to gather for place of going to lakes and honky tonks and things like that. We'd just gather at people's houses, you know. And Of course, I knew Lawrence all of my life. That's my husband. We lived in the same neighborhood. He lived on the road, but we lived down across the field a piece. And we just meet and play games and play ball and stuff like that at different people's houses. And we'd all gather and go to church and during revivals in a wagon. Drive a team of mules to a wagon and go to church.
That was a lot of fun, though.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
You know, there's a steamship company that advertised getting there is half the fun.
That's
well,
right.
You probably
Well, we started in
took your
time to get there. Well, we started in time, yeah.
and going was fun.
It was really fun. We enjoyed it. There'd be 10 or 12 on the wagon, you know, and we'd just laugh and have the best time in the world. And I don't know, during some of our meetings, he was 6 years older than I were. And I don't know, somewhere, somehow, we just went looking at each other, you know, like people will do, and looking cross-eyed, sort of.
Yeah.
You know how you do.
Oh, yeah.
And then he, one of the meetings, he asked if he could come down some Sunday evening. People didn't go back then like they do now, boys and girls didn't. They just had certain times they talked and had courted.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, yes, I guess so. And so I was only about 15 then. And I said, yes, I guess so. So we got started. He came and we started and just went from there.
Mm-hmm.
And about a year after that, why, he was 22. And he started talking about getting married, you know. And I said, well, I don't know. I'll have to think about that. So a little while. And so we talked about it, but still seen each other. And 1933, we went to a pea hulling.
Mm-hmm.
People had pea hullings and candy makings and stuff like that.
You helped one another do the work, didn't you?
Yes, we did. We helped each family do what they had to do. So we went to a pea hulling and slipped off from there and went to Metropolis, Illinois, and got married. And I was only 16. I wasn't 17 years old. But we have lived together for going on 53 years.
Mm-hmm.
And had 9 children.
You duplicated just what your mother did.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've had 9 children, and thank the Lord they all are living. We raised them all.
Mm-hmm.
5 of them went to high school and graduated, and some of them went but didn't graduate, quit before they finished. And
Now, do they live, some of them fairly near here?
they all live right here in Marshall County except one boy, and he's in Nevada at work. And we have
Now, do they have any children?
my children.
Any of them?
Yes, I have 5 granddaughters, 5 granddaughters and 6 grandsons.
So there's 11 right
yeah,
there.
there's 11.
And
yeah.
they're nearby, and you can enjoy them.
Yes, I can. And we've got 5 grandsons that's Wallaces and Posies and Gordons and Marses.
Mm-hmm.
But we had our first grandson, Turner grandson, just this year. You know, just this year, one Turner grandson.
The namesake didn't come as fast as some of the others.
No, it didn't. Yeah. And he's 6 months old now, but he is a dandy. I mean, he's a dandy. So
yeah.
we've really enjoyed the children. I've been at home a lot, and Lawrence has had to work at anything he could work at, you know. He worked on this road up here coming from 641 into Birmingham when we first got married. Then he worked for the state highway, and just anything that could come along. And in 1933, we was just getting over the depression, you know, and the drought we had in 30.
Mm-hmm.
And So he spent about a year and a half working for the WPA. But you had to work wherever you could get work.
Yes.
And a lot of people worked on that. And it was a lifesaver to the community because I'll tell you, things were bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, as time went on, why things went to picking up a little bit. And he got a job on this reservoir clearing whenever it came out for the dam. And he worked 11
I believe that
months.
started about 38.
Yes,
didn't it?
yes, it did. And he worked there 11 months. Him and another guy he knew sawed down trees. That was their job all day long, just sawing down trees. And then another guy come along, trimmed them up.
Trimmed off the limbs.
Trimmed off the limbs, and then somebody else come along and sawed them up.
And somebody sharpened the saw,
Yes.
filed the saw, I guess.
That's right. But we've had, our ups and downs, but we've also enjoyed life, and we were saved and joined the church in 1947,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been continuing.
Where do you go to church?
I go to church at Bethel right now, but we joined at Pleasant Hope Baptist Church on the old Birmingham Road from Fairdealing when we joined and was saved. And I've taught Sunday school down there several years, and vacation Bible school at Hamlet. And I don't teach anymore because there's more people, now that can take over. But I really enjoyed working for the Lord. I really have enjoyed it. And I've always tried to live a good, clean Christian life. I've never been a person that's been worldly, out in the world. And I've never traveled very much. Lawrence has went everywhere. He's worked in Tennessee and Illinois and Missouri and has to stay over from Monday to Friday. But I was always at home with the kids, And, of course, I don't regret that. I loved the children, and I was just more than proud to take care of them and be with them. So...
Now tell us a little bit about what you had to have to start housekeeping. Now, this was long about 33. Now, today you'd have to have an automatic washer and a dryer and an air conditioner and a refrigerator and a freezer and, on and on and on. Now, what did you have to have in 1933 to start housekeeping?
I went from my house into the Turner house.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived with Lawrence's father, and he was blind. So we just had what he had, just a wood cook stove, just tables and chairs, cane-bottom chairs, no couches or nothing like that. We had a fireplace and just cane-bottom chairs that sit around it, and bedroom suites as they had back then, and old library tables. And stuff like that. We didn't have nothing fancy. We didn't have no refrigerators or ice boxes or anything like that. We had it very plain and common, and had a cistern on the porch. We could walk out from the door to the...
Now that is handier than a lot of people have.
Yes, it was. Yes, that's true. When we was kids at home, we had to carry our water a lot of times from a well or a spring, but they had built that house, and they had put their cistern closed. That has made it much handier. So we lived there about, I guess,
You said there was
4
a
years.
fireplace. Did you get cold in the winter?
Oh, we got cold. Your front would burn and your back would freeze.
Did you ever notice in the neighborhood that the ladies who'd sit around the fireplace, that their legs would kind of model?
Just like leprosy or something,
Yeah.
that spot around. Yeah,
I've
they'd
seen
turn
my
it.
mother's legs that way.
Yes, sir. I've
years.
seen lots of people.
All the neighbors.
Lots of people.
And they'd sit so near the fire to try to keep warm.
That's true.
As you said, your backside would freeze and the front side would burn up.
Burn up, that's true. But as I said before, we didn't know no better. We just thought that was the way it ought to be, you know. But Pappy kept wood, and he'd cut wood and keep it on the porch, and we just had a good fire. But, you know, the houses were open back then.
Uh-huh.
They had cracks in them and all that stuff. And
Now,
it was terrible.
despite all of that, you would make enjoyment out of these things. Now, I'm sure you did, as we did. Neighbors would come over, and we would have grown, let's say, a little patch of popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd shell some popcorn, or maybe I already had it shelled, but and there was the merchants made a popper back then that just fit a fireplace. Had a long handle on it.
That's right.
And you'd put that in there and shake it around a little bit. And
My daddy has popped many a popcorn full of popper, and then we'd put on a pan of sorghum molasses and make popcorn balls.
oh yeah,
And they was delicious. Yeah, we made fun out of it. We enjoyed it. It was really great. And then the neighbors would come, and we'd make taffy candy, you know, and pull it.
oh yeah.
We'd pull taffy candy and have it all over the place. But you just had to enjoy your life, no matter how hard the times you had and how little you had. Nobody else had any more, you know. So you just all pitched in and had a ball.
Yeah. That's great.
Yes, it is.
I guess, like every bride, you did look forward to someday having your own house.
Oh, yes, yes, I sure did. We, in about 1940, I guess, we built our first little house. We had, on the Big Bear Camp Road it is now. And then we moved from there to Benton and stayed a year. But we didn't like town, so we moved back out in the country up around Fair Dealing, where we used to live when we was children. And we lived up there for about 4 years, farmed and Lawrence worked off, but we raised strawberries and tobacco.
You had a garden, I guess.
Oh, we had a garden every year. We had canned stuff and canned green beans and peaches, and had mashed potatoes and sweet potatoes, and we just raised a lot of stuff that we ate. And
did you pick any blackberries?
oh, we picked blackberries by the gallons, canned them. We didn't have freezers, but we canned them and made pies in the winter, and jam and jelly. We really did. We had to. Everything that was there, we had to take care of it and gather it and use it.
Did chiggers bother you?
Oh, chiggers just get around our waistlines and under our arms. Them chiggers would just eat you to death. And it'd take forever to get rid of them.
Yeah.
You never could get rid of them.
Did you ever find a remedy that would keep them off of you?
Never found a remedy that'd keep them off, no. And we didn't have much of a remedy to heal them up, you know. We just Ma'd put fried meat grease on them, scratch them sorter, and then we'd put fried meat grease on them. I said, that sounds awful, but that's all we had, and everybody had the same thing.
I've done the same thing. I don't know whether it's a good remedy or not.
Well, I don't know
Finally, they did heal up.
Yeah, they'd leave. And then when we moved from up there the 4 years, we came out here, moved out here. And we've been here for 35 years.
That's right here on the highway. Do you like
Here.
this?
Yes, we like here. We like here. And our last 2 sons was born here. The other 7, I always had at home, you know. Mother would come over and stay, and the neighbor women would come in with me and be with me. But we always had a doctor, you know, but at home was where the children was born back then. But our last 2 boys was born, one at the clinic at Benton and one in Murray. Our last boy he's 27 now.
Modern times was arriving. And
Modern times was getting here. But when we moved out here, all of the houses in this community was just little white frame houses. But when the dam came in,
Now, did you build this big fancy brick house you
Ye-
live in?
Yes, we built this house. We built this house ourselves. We lived in a small house, 4 room, and it burned. And so Lawrence and the boys laid these brick in our brick creek they are, and we built this house ourselves about 19 and 20. No, Bruce is 26. We built it when he was just about a year old.
Mhm.
So we've lived here ever since, and we love the neighbors and love the community. And it's handy to go places, you know, and go to work and back was for him. He, in 47, he had worked at just first one thing and then another, anything he could find, but he got a call to come lay brick. So he...
Now, that was a good trade.
That was a good trade. He worked, him and Charlie Hamlet, a friend of his, was bricklayers, and so, or they learned to lay. And so they worked there at that job till it run out. And then, from that on, he has been a bricklayer. He worked at bricklaying the rest of his working years. Of course, he's been retired for about 14 years and in poor health now and don't do much, but...
Now, laying brick, of course, paid a good bit more than just, say, cutting bushes or something.
Oh, yes. When he first started, the first job he had, he made $2 an hour and worked 10 hours a day. That is $20 a day.
You thought that was
And we were
John
just
D. Rockefeller. wasn't
completely rich. That's true. Because, you know, we still had a wood cook stove and still had no ice boxes or refrigerators. They were some in the community, but we just didn't have one. But, you know, I guess...
But happiness is not based entirely on just things that you have.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. I remember getting books. He'd be gone off to work and be gone through the week, and I would take storybooks and set all the kids down and read them stories of a night, you know, and they really enjoyed it, and we enjoyed it. Of course, we'd like to have him home, but he couldn't be at home and make a living for us. And so he had to work because the children had to go to school and they had to just do lots of things, you know, and have clothes and food to eat. And
I was reading in Time magazine 2 or 3 weeks ago about it. Said at one time in American history, all the children always said, "Tell me a story," and they were commenting on the fact that now they're making so many talking books, and not just for the blind, but people play them in their tape players in cars as they drive along.
yeah,
And it had become a big business. And it says once more, they're saying, "Tell me a story."
yeah, they're coming
So
back to the stories,
and,
you know.
And mother provided that role in your generation.
In my family, yes, we did. I was the one that read the books and told the stories. My daddy was the one in our family when we were growing up. He would tell us stories because Mother was always up busy and around in the kitchen or in the living room or doing something, you know. But Daddy was awful good with helping with us children because we...
Miss Turner, we only have a minute or so left.
Oh,
And I wondered if you could think of some special story that you'd like to tell, something you want to get on here before we get off. You, anything, say, a funny story or life's most embarrassing
I
moment?
can't think of anything really that happened. Only one time the children was all out in the yard and playing, and they had sneaked over to the orchard and had got into the apple orchard and had ate a lot of apples, you know. We had told them not to get in the apple trees because, you know, it'd make their stomach hurt if they ate too
tummy
many.
ache with green apples.
Well, they came in in the evening sort of like, well, their stomach was hurting. And I said, well, now, have you been in the apple June apples? And they said, yes. We ate a few. Well, when we got out to looking, well, they had eat more than they thought they had, and they had thrown the cores in a pond over there, you know.
There they were.
And there we could see how many did eat. And so, well, their stomach hurt them for about 2 or 3 days, but then it got better, and it all came out in the wash, you know.
Those things are fun, but now to look back on them, that's part of growing up and life, and you like to remember them.
That's right, that's right.
Well, we certainly thank you, Miss Turner, for letting us come to your house.
Well, I appreciate it, and I enjoyed talking to you, and I enjoy the programs that I hear, you know.
Well, good. You just keep listening
okay.
and tell your friends.
And thank you a lot.
Well, you're certainly welcome. This is Ray Mofield on Oral History. We return you now to our studio.